Gaurav
Gaurav,
Bhakti.
Gaurav, Gaurav.
Continuing. And, these prayers, I was thinking that we should summarize it. I have some notes, and so far till the chapter 25 has been Narad Muni explaining Puranjana. He introduced this Puranjana analogy or example, and Prachina Barhi has caught up with the fact that it's actually a example. He also caught up with the fact that he's actually talking about Prachina Barhi. Okay, let me share the screen. Chapter 26. Who likes to start reading? Rasastali Mataji, you want to start reading?
Okay. Chapter 26 Puranjana Goes Hunting. The allergical king Puranjana tries to enjoy his senses. Prachin Bari leaned back on his throne. Narada was obviously instructing him about his own life. He, the king, was Puranjana. He was curious to know the Allegroi's message. Narada continued. One day Puranjana desired to go hunting. Donning his armor, he mounted his golden chariot and set off for the forest with his 11 commanders. The vehicle was equipped with a great bow and an inexhaustible quiver of arrows, as well as 2 explosive missiles and 5 other weapons. His chariot had 2 wheels which rotated on an axle, reins, and a driver, a sitting place, and 2 poles to which were attached the harness. It was protected by 7 coverings and adorned with 3 flags and many gold decorations. 5 swift horses pulled it in different styles past numerous obstacles. Although it was difficult for Puranjana to give up his wife's company even for a moment on this day, enthusiastic to hunt, he set off without her. Influenced by demonic tendencies, he mercilessly killed many innocent animals in the forest. Prajin Bari frowned. Great sage, do, do not the scriptures encourage king to hunt? Even if hunting here is a metaphor for sensual enjoyment, that too is encouraged by the scriptures. It is. The nature of living beings to seek pleasure, and the duty of kings in particular to hunt in order to practice weaponry. Why are you criticizing this as demonic? Nada replied, the Vedas do not encourage these things. They restrict them. Foolish, conditioned souls influenced by the mode of oppression and ignorance are inclined to eat meat and fish, indulged in sex, and drink liquor. The Vedas curb these tendencies by allowing you to hunt animals only on certain occasions. They must then be sacrificed to goddess Kali. Then you can eat. You cannot hunt and eat whenever you like. Similarly, the scripture restricts sexual indulgence and drinking liquor. Sex is confined to marriage and liquor consumption to specific days only. Prachin Bari swallowed hard, remembering Narada was the mind-born son of Lord Brahma and guru of the great Dhruva. He desired from further argument.
I can't hear you.
Mataji, I can't hear either.
Maybe something happened to the connection. Yeah. Komal Mataji, would you like to continue?
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
I think something.
Narada's face softened. My dear king, try to understand the scriptures correctly. If you apply Vedic injunctions properly, you will not be bound by karmic reactions. Without proper scriptural understanding, you will be misled by your pride and whimsical notions. Such behavior will never purify your heart. Rather, you will become further influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance and lose your finer discrimination. Mental speculation causes one to be perpetually lost in the cycle of birth and death, sometimes degraded to a microbe in stool and other times elevated to a birth in Brahma's planet. King Prachinbari wrung his hands. These were difficult truths to hear. None of the court Brahmins had ever spoken to him in this way. He took a deep breath. Please continue with the story. Listen to what happened next. When kind hearted people saw Puranjana slaughtering so many creatures with his sharp arrows, they were distressed. They could hardly bear to see the animals suffering. Puranjana slew numerous wild beasts, including rabbits, boars, buffalo, bison, black deer, porcupines, and many others. He continued with his killing spree until he felt exhausted. Fatigued, hungry, and thirsty, he returned to his palace where he bathed, ate a wholesome meal, and then rested. On rising, he dressed smartly, scented his body with sandalwood, and put on flower garlands. He then set out to find his queen. Although eager to be with her again, he was unable to find her. As he listened, Prachin Bhari began to imagine the scene. It was one he had often experienced. Puranjana entered the inner chambers. Where was his wife? He spotted a maidservant and called out to her, Is everything well with you and the queen? I cannot find her anywhere. A home without a mother or devoted wife loses all value. It is like a chariot without wheels. What wise man would remain there? Please tell me, where is that beautiful woman? She always saves me with her good intelligence when I'm drowning in the ocean of material existence. The maidservant replied, Your Majesty, we are worried for the queen. She's acting strangely. She led Puranjana to the queen's sulking rooms. O chastiser of enemies, kindly look over there. See how she lies on the bare floor. Puranjana gasped. The queen looked like a renounced ascetic sleeping on the earth. He ran over to her. Why had he left her and gone hunting alone? That had been a mistake. The king spoke gently. Sweet lady, please arise. Your servant is here. Tell me, what is wrong? How can I please you? The queen averted her gaze. Puranjana stroked her head. Was she pretending to be angry out of love? She pulled away from him. Puranjana's face fell. He needed to pacify her with sweet words. He touched her feet and eulogized her in silky tones. Gradually, she softened and allowed him to embrace her and sit her on his lap. Puranjana said, My dear beautiful wife, unfortunate is that servant who is not punished by his master. Indeed, it is a great mercy when a servant is chastised by his lord. He should never become angry at such loving treatment. The queen turned away. My dear wife, please show me your lovely face. He gently turned her chin toward him. You have such attractive teeth, brows, and nose. You seem thoughtful. Kindly tell me what is on your mind. Give up your anger and be merciful to me. Smile lovingly at me. She slowly raised her eyes. Puranjana heaved a sigh. When I see a smile on your delightful face, your dark hair, your raised nose, and hear your sweet talk, you become even more desirable to me. I am your most obedient servant. The queen began to cry and placed her head on Puranjana's broad chest. Puranjana gently wiped away her tears. Know me to be a powerful hero, and you, my beloved consort. Tell me without fear if someone has offended you. I am prepared to punish anyone for your sake, except a Brahmin or Vaishnava. My dear wife, I have never seen your charming face not decorated with tilak, nor have I seen you looking so cheerless and morose. For the first time, I see your breasts soaked by tears and your lips, usually resembling bimba fruits, without their reddish hue. The king drew her close to him and spoke in a husky voice. My dear queen, I should not have gone to the forest without asking you. Forgive me. He kissed her lips lightly. Thinking of me as your most intimate servant, you should still show me favor. Out of lust for you, I'm suffering. What attractive woman would neglect her passionate husband and refuse his advances? Chapter 27, Puranjana ravaged by time. Puranjana is attacked by old age and disease. Prachinbari shook himself out of his reverie. His face turned red. How did a renunciate know so much about him? Narada continued, My dear king, hear how Puranjana's queen brought her husband under her control and satisfied him sexually. The queen bathed, dressed, and ornamented herself nicely. After eating to her satisfaction, she returned to the king. Seeing her so beautiful, the king welcomed her lovingly. They embraced and exchanged joking words. Captivated by his attractive queen, Puranjana forgot all about life's true purpose. He failed to see how he was gradually growing older without making any progress in life. Why do you say he's not making progress? Asked Prachinbari. Did he not have wealth, power, or respect? Or do you mean he did not perform his religious and kingly duties? None of these are life's real aim, replied Narada. The value of human life is to know and love Krishna. If we do not increase our knowledge of Krishna and our devotion to him, we spend our lives uselessly. Prachinbari took a deep breath. Narada continued. Although advanced in consciousness, Puranjana became increasingly deluded. He spent most of his time lying on a valuable bed on the pillow of his wife's arms. Thinking sexual enjoyment to be the ultimate happiness, he was overwhelmed by the mood of ignorance, not caring to realize his eternal relationship with Krishna. Prachinbari interrupted. On the one hand, you say he was deluded, while on the other, you say he was advanced. I'm confused by this contradiction. You raise a good point, said Narada. He was advanced in the sense that he accepted Krishna's existence and even followed the religious principles for his varna and ashram. However, because of illusion, he did not engage himself in bhakti yoga. Prachinbari shifted in his seat. Narada was perfectly describing him. The sage continued, O long-lived king, polluted by lust and sinful reaction, Puranjana lost himself in carnal enjoyment while his life and youth flashed by. During this time, he begot 1,100 sons in his wife's womb. He also fathered 110 daughters with qualities equal to their parents, such as gentleness and liberality. He married all of his children to suitable spouses. They each had hundreds of children of their own, and gradually Panchala became overcrowded by the king's many descendants. They plundered his possessions, including his home, treasury, servants, and other paraphernalia, to which Puranjana was deeply attached. Narada looked Prachinbari firmly in the eye. Just like you, dear king, Puranjana had numerous desires and therefore worshipped the gods, forefathers, and societal leaders.
Thank you, Komal Mataji. Rajeshwari Mataji, would you like to read?
In ghastly sacrifices involving animal slaughters, absorbed in family life and material enjoyment, he reached old age, which is repugnant to those addicted to sense enjoyment. Prachinbari undid the top button of his tunic. Narada allegory was painfully accurate. Old age was also bearing down on him. Narada continued, there is a king named Chandavega living in Gandharva Loka who was 360 very powerful Gandharva soldier and an equal number of Gandharvi female warriors. They laid siege to Panchal and plundered all the paraphernalia meant for sense enjoyment. The five-hooded snake guarded Panchala rose up to defend it. Prachinbari's brow furrowed, for he knew the name must have some significance. Who is who is Chandavega? Narada replied, Chandavega means quickly passing away. It refers to time which passes swiftly with the help of an army of days and night. He then returned to the story. The five-hooded serpent, the city super, superintendent and protector, fought alone with the 720 Gandharvas for 100 years. Gradually, these mighty warriors wore down the snake. When they saw their protector had become weak, Puranjana and his citizens felt extremely anxious. Until then, Puranjana had been oblivious to the danger, busy himself collecting taxes from the five provinces of his city to fund his sensual pleasure. Now hear about Jara, the daughter of time. She is the personification of old age and infirmity, always roaming about the three planetary systems seeking a husband. Although no one wants to unfortunate woman, although no one wants this unfortunate woman. There was, however, one king who became fortunate by accepting her. Pleased with him, she gave him a great benediction. Prachin Barhi remembered hearing how King Yayati had been cursed to become prematurely old. His youngest son Puru accepted the curse of his behalf. Hence, he was later rewarded with kingship over the kingdom in preference to his older brother. Narada Chakul. Once, as I traveled from Brahmaloka to earth, Jara was wandering throughout the universe and saw me. Although she knew I have taken a lifelong vow of celibacy, she became lusty and proposed that I marry her. Really? What did you do? Narada laughed. I refused, of course. That is one reason I now travel constantly. What do you mean? Angered by my refusal, she cursed me to never stay in one place for very long. Prachin Bari started at Narada. Oh, I am so sorry. Actually, I find the curse useful. Traveling everywhere, I teach people about Krishna. Did you curse her back? Why? I knew she felt disappointed and downhearted by my rejection, so I suggested she approach the personified form of fear, Bhaya, king of the Yavanas, and accept him as her husband. Kalakanya told Bhaya, my dear sir, you are the best of the untouchables. I am in love with you and desire to marry you. I know that those who befriend you are never baffled. Who is Kalakanya? What does it mean that those who befriend fear are never baffled? Narada said, I am surprised you.
Um, Thank you, Rajeshwari Mataji. Rasastali Mataji, would you like to continue? Last time the connection went off.
Yes, yes, the connection went away. Yes.
Mataji,
Nada said,
she's the
I'm
same.
surprised you.
Just,
Don't you?
I have a
Yeah.
question. Mataji, she's the same Jara who got the Jarasandha. That Jarasandha got the name because of her.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay.
Don't know the answer to your first question. Kala means time, Kala means time, and Kanya means daughter. Combined, they mean the daughter of time. Of course, said the king. It's an other name for Jara. Yes. Now your second question is more interesting. A person who worships Krishna as I instruct befriends fear and therefore does not become afraid even in the face of old age and death. Prachin Bari was fascinated. Instructed by Narada, Dhruva had stepped on death's head. Surely the sage could also bestow fearlessness on him. With folded palms, he said, "Please continue." Nada smiled. "As I was saying, Kalakanya spoke to Bhaya. Listen to what transpired." Bhaya looked Kalakanya up and down several times. Her skinny calves, varicose veins, misshapen back, thin arms and bony wrinkled hands, her sagging breasts and chin, wrinkled face and hollow eyes, topped off with thinning straw-like hair. He kept murmuring hum as he stroked his chin. Kalakanya crossed her arms. What was his problem? She spoke in a raspy voice. Scripture ordains that one must both give and accept charity at the appropriate time. Otherwise, he is in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, you should accept me or else follow the path of fools, which leads to lamentation. Bhaya scowled. No one told him what to do. Kalakanya hastily reached out and took his hand. Pressing it to her bosom, she pleaded, "Good sir, I am here to serve you. Be merciful and take me as your wife, for it is the duty of gentle persons to show compassion to the needy." Bhaya pulled back his hand. If she had been a man, he would have killed her for her impertinence. He turned to walk away, but then looked back at her again. Perhaps he should be more tolerant. Vishnu had entrusted him with a confidential service. This woman would be a useful ally in his mission. Attacked by her, any sane person would become fearful and take shelter of Krishna. His face broke into a smile. "My dear Jara, I have the perfect husband for you. He will surely accept you, although anyone else would reject your marriage offer, thinking you inauspicious." Jara lowered her gaze. She had taken a fancy to Bhaya, and now he too was rejecting her, passing her on to some other man. Bhaya tried to cheer up. "My dear lady, nearly everyone is this. In this world, works hard for material gain, leaving no time to cultivate spiritual knowledge. I give you permission to attack such people." Jara lifted her head. "Everyone hates me. When they see me coming, they will surely kill me." Bhaya put an arm around her hunched shoulders. Do not fear. I will give you the power to move invisibly among them. As added protection, I will send my soldiers to help you. No one will be able to oppose you." Jara looked around. "What soldiers?" Bhaya laughed and whistled loudly. Immediately, hordes of ugly, powerful looking creatures descended, making a terrible din. "Here they are, a host of diseases and anxieties." He shouted out, "Hey, cholera, typhoid, corona, go quickly, fetch Pravara, tell Prajvara, tell him to come here." Jubilant death, you seize those who neglect.
We'll pause here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking how the corona is written here. They knew that corona is about to come. Typhoid, cholera is there, but see the corona. I mean, how?
Uh,
Well, again, this is not Bhagavatam direct. This is a interpretation summary of Bhagavatam. So this is Krishna Dharma Prabhu adding it. So probably he added Corona because he was writing this book during Corona. And, it may not have been named like that, but obviously there are a host of diseases that modern science has still not named. But this point is very interesting here about all these diseases. Yesterday I was studying astrology and some advanced calculations and all about diseases. And it came to my, the shlokas by Parashara, and he speaks about diseases. Very directly, he goes into the core of every kind of disease is because of our disconnection from the Lord in our heart, like that. So, the whole conclusion is that every disease is essentially a trigger from the part of ourselves which loves us the most. I mean, it was like fascinating to study these things that traumas that we go through in childhood, the problems that we go through by whatever other traumas that we experience, the pain that we experience as children when we are helpless, all that is kind of suppressed somewhere in our psyche, in our subconscious mind. And then those things become, and then we cultivate some coping mechanism. And then that coping mechanism later on develops into, like, for example, this ADHD is a very common symptom for young people. And actually, it's not a disease at all. It's just a coping mechanism that we develop when we are little children. We are made to sit in classes that are really boring, underpaid teachers trying to teach us something which is not really catching our attention. And then when we are fidgety, it's like, imagine, if my class is so terrible or something, if I'm saying something terrible, you have two options, right? One is to stay and tolerate, another is to go. Imagine you can't do both. So that's the condition of kids. They can't leave, they can't stay. So what happens is they become fidgety and they become distracted and they become hyperactive, like that. And I was studying how every single disease has the root cause ultimately with our disconnection with who we really are, our authentic selves. And every disease, I mean, and then I was like, I was able to find proof by examples of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and all. Many people, they thank diseases because of the disease, the healing of a particular disease, say cancer, the healing that occurs in that cancer leads that person to self-realization. Many people have gone through it, and when you go and talk to them, they say, actually, I would never trade this disease with anything else. So essentially, disease is created by a part of ourselves which loves us the most. So it is a way to wake us up to connecting to our true authentic self and not to lose ourselves. And all this, when we are reading all this definitions here, it's also very relevant here, very apt, because this Bhaya and Jara and Kalakanya, they are all ultimately servants. Like Bhaya is saying, oh, people will run away when they see Kalakanya. Everybody's afraid, right? Of time, because time is a cycle, it's circular, it's not gonna, good time doesn't last forever, we know it's gonna end, good relationships don't last forever, we know people will die, we know that. So that's the time aspect, we are all afraid of it. So Bhaya is thinking in this way, oh, if Kalakanya will join my mission, then people will be scared and they'll take shelter of Krishna. See, ultimately, Baya's fear's purpose is to make people scared of time and diseases and all this, so that they take shelter of Krishna. And in fact, I have seen when people don't have health issues, they won't take so much shelter of Krishna sometimes. When we have health issues, we think, oh, I wish I could go on parikrama, like now I was in parikrama and so many people couldn't sit, they have back problem, they have knee problem, they're more eager for seeing Jagannath, they're more eager for parikrama. When we take it for granted, we can do everything. We don't have so much enthusiasm. We're not so eager. And now we can see the plot thickening, right? Bhaya is thinking, oh, this Kalakanya can be a very good match for this diseases. No, will be very good. I mean, he called all these diseases to come. It's a very how do you say, the truth, the reality, the unpleasant reality explained in this kind of analogy, this kind of what is it called? Example. It stands in our mind, in our memory. Any other question? Allegory.
Again, thinking of writing this, this lineage of how it became. Otherwise, we won't remember.
No, this is very good for classes. When we give classes, we can quote this. It's very relevant. And also how Narad Muni is carefully counseling. He's not just telling and going away. He's slowly convincing Prachinabhari, right? Jara.
Actually, this section is always like fascinating. This 9 gates and all that. So very if it's very powerful. I must say, points in this section to preach the newcomers, to make them little bit fearful, and to move towards Krishna.
True. I mean, tomorrow we will read. Krishna Dharma Prabhu does a fantastic, fascinating job. He translates all this conversation between this Bhaya, this whole thing, no? Like how Bhaya introduces these two people, no? Kalakanya and Prajvara. And then she gets curious, who's this Prajvara? And then Bhaya is going to say, you're going to love him. He's very hot. He's like killingly hot and pretty cool also. Because that's fever, right? And then cholera and everything. He introduces all that. Oh my God, it's like scary, but it's all about diseases tomorrow. He speaks about oh my God, he goes into all these details of interesting. I mean, not interesting, it's kind of materially disgusting, but this is the reality, unpleasant reality. Yeah. All right, so let's pause here for today, the reading, and continue with our Vishnu Sahasranam. And Mataji Rasastali, are you ready with the...
Yes.
Thank you.
Affirmation 7. I chant in full awareness that the holy name is my greatest treasure. This is similar to the last affirmation and is based on the Harinam Chintamani. The holy name is the greatest jewel in the Lord's treasury because the holy name awakens our love for Krishna, and this love is our greatest wealth. At the same time, to have a relationship with us is one of the Krishna's most cherished desires. Although he has everything, he doesn't have our heart, and he hankers for it and is anxiously waiting for us to return to him. And since the Mahamantra will cause us to give our heart to Krishna, he will get from us what he most desires through the Mahamantra. The holy name not only gives us the strength we need to continue in Krishna consciousness, but also fully reveals our eternal form, relationship, and service. Plus, without the holy names, there would be no possibility of achieving Krishna consciousness in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. The Maha Mantra is thus Krishna offering us a relationship with him. If we chant his name without offenses, he will revive that relationship with and will please Krishna. What could be more valuable than this? Hare Krishna.
Wow.